welcome to People Who Make a Difference, our interview segment dedicated to sharing with you, our viewers, those who through their lives are influencing and even changing society for the better here in Israel. Our guest today is Josh Reinstein, the director of the Knesset Caucus Committee. And he's a young businessman who we've come to know and love, and we appreciate him very much. And tell us a little bit about your life here, Josh, and how you got involved in Israel in such an important way.
Well, I've always been a Zionist. I grew up in a very Zionist family. I lived in Dallas, Texas, where my father was the president of the ZOA, Zionist Organization of America, for that region. And since then, I've always wanted to move to Israel. When I was 12 years old, I'd talk about how I'd want to go to the army. I've always had Israel at heart. I guess the first real experience I had with Israel was when I was 13. I came here on a team tour, and I got to see the beautiful land and fell in love all over again with the place, and decided right then and there that I was going to one day make Aliyah.
That's wonderful.
That's not easy when you grew up in affluent America.
No, it's not. You know, there was a lot of reasons not to make Aliyah. I had great lucrative job incentives at a really young age, just out of university, and I had a lot of people who in my family were worried about me going to the army. They thought it would be too dangerous. But that's where my heart led me, and the minute I finished university about 6 years ago, I decided to get on a plane and make Aliyah, and I moved here. I lived in an absorption center with only Russian immigrants. I did that specifically. I was 22. And I wanted to live with only Russian immigrants because I wanted to learn the language. I always knew how to read and write Hebrew because I pray in Hebrew. But I never knew how to speak Hebrew, so I lived with people who didn't speak English to try to help me with my Hebrew. But it wasn't really until the army where I was able to learn Hebrew. I'm not too adept at learning languages, apparently. And I did the army. I was a tank gunner in the 188. Here in Israel, and after getting out of the army, I wanted to continue my support in Israel and continue my Zionist ideals. And what I did was I helped to establish the Christian Allies Caucus of the Knesset with member of Knesset Reinstein, who is our chairman.
Now tell us a little bit about this organization and really what is the idea behind it?
Well, the Christian Allies Caucus is a 12-member caucus of our parliament. That's 10% of all our parliament sits in the caucus. It's bipartisan from 6 different parties. And the idea behind it was to build a direct line of communication, cooperation, and coordination between the leaders of Israel and Christian leaders around the world, whether it be church leaders or organization leaders or political leaders. We feel that the Christian Allies Caucus is the personification of the new relationship that Jews and Christians have in the 21st century. And we didn't think it was an accident that it's taking place in our parliament here in Jerusalem, where our two people parted ways over 2,000 years ago. We were very excited a year and a half ago when we started the caucus, and we've been plugging away ever since.
That's marvelous. And it's taking off, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, we are growing exponentially every month. We're not a ceremonial caucus where we bring in leaders and shake hands and take pictures. We're a working caucus, and we take on real initiatives. And each month we dedicate our meeting to a different initiative, and we work to pursue it, and it's been incredibly successful. We were shocked, actually.
Surprised, too, I think.
Yes, we were very surprised to see how many people out there really support Israel and stand with us, and how many people wanted to be a part of it. Our embassies around the world and consulates were flooded with emails wanting to know more information about the caucus. We have very affluent leaders coming to the Knesset to our monthly meetings. And our initiatives are been taken on by many organizations and churches and promoted around the world. Now,
Jews were always suspicious of Christians, especially the evangelical kind, because of conversion. How do you deal with that?
Well, first of all, we have a caveat in the caucus. Any church or organization involved in missionary activity towards Jews is not welcome. But I think a lot of that suspiciousness on our side faded away after September 11th. We saw that Judeo-Christian values that we hold dear were under attack, and that we have to stand together. And
Amen.
We've been very happy with the results, and people who come to the caucus and work with us in good faith. And we've been able to accomplish a lot because of that. Of course, there are those organizations that try to proselytize towards Jewish people, and we stay clear of working with them because we believe, and a lot of the people that we work with on the Christian side believe, that in order for prophecy to be fulfilled, there needs to be a strong and viable Jewish people, and there needs to be a Jewish state of Israel.
I think it's so thrilling that so many years ago, Pope Paul stated that the covenant to the Jewish people was eternal. Now that to you is nothing, but to the Christian world, it's like news.
Well, it wasn't nothing to us either. I mean, we've had a very, I would say, delicately antsy relationship with the Vatican for hundreds of years, but Pope John Paul II was a real visionary. He was a real hero to a lot of people, and we mourn his loss as well as Christians because of the fact that he was able to bridge that gap and say that anti-Zionism is a form of anti-Semitism and that anti-Semitism is wrong, and he was genuine, and we were able to work together, Israel and the Vatican, for many years because of that. And he was also a symbol of freedom, being the first pope from Poland.
Yes.
In the time of communism and totalitarianism regimes there in Russia.
Having lived through the Holocaust.
Yes, I think it was really a blessing for him.
He had a Jewish landlord.
And there are still Jewish citizens here in Israel who went to school with him that remember him, and I think that made all the difference.
I love the story told by the Pope's boyhood friend when they were 10 years old, and how the Pope was at the church, and his Jewish friend ran to share with him his good news of passing an exam. And the lady at the church wanted to shoo him out. She said, "Aren't you the son of Dr. So-and-so?" He said, "Yes." But then his friend came and he said to the lady, "But aren't we the children of the same God?" I thought, 10 years old, I mean, I thought it was wonderful. Yeah.
Now, Josh, give our viewers an idea of some of the achievements of the Christian Allies Caucus in the Knesset.
Well, we've been working on a lot of advocacy programs. One such that brought Jews and Christians together in an incredible way was the International Day of Prayer for the Peace of Jerusalem that we held across from the Knesset at the Rose Garden last October. 53,000 churches around the world from 72 different nations took part in it. We had a ceremony afterwards where the chief rabbi of Israel came and gave his blessings, and that's something that we don't see that often. We've also been working with in Europe with the European Coalition for Israel, which is the first pro-Israel lobby in Brussels at the European Union of the 3,000 lobbies that exist, and that was started by Christians. We're seeing just a tremendous activity of Christians and Jews working together around the world.
And in Asia?
In Asia, we hosted the Jerusalem Summit Asia for the first time last year in Manila. We'll be having another one in Korea this year. But in Jerusalem Summit Asia, we had representatives of 7 different countries, parliament members and Christian leaders who came together with Jewish politicians and academics and were able to really speak about policy based on Judeo-Christian values, not the regular run-of-the-mill politics. That was a huge achievement for us because we were the first group of Knesset members to come there since the time of Golda Meir in the 70s. So really, we've been able to make a lot of advancements in advocacy projects, but we've also been working on other projects as well here in Israel. We had in January for the first time a day of education for parliament members of Israel on Christianity. Something like that would have been impossible to fathom just a few years ago. In this coming up curriculum, for the 2006 curriculum, there will be an actual portion on Christianity, the basics of it. What's the difference between Catholicism and evangelical Christianity and Protestantism?
This is in the Israeli schools.
In the Israeli school system.
Amazing.
We're going to actually have a section on section in our Zionist curriculum on Christian Zionism. A lot of people don't know that it was Christian Zionists who helped found this country.
Yes.
Not a lot of people know that Lord Balfour was a Christian Zionist, and his Balfour Declaration is the essential document that gave us our independence. So we've been working in the country, in Israel, and trying to educate Jews to let them know that they're not alone, that they do have friends, and who these people are.
Wonderful.
We're also working at the grassroots level. We've been working with the World Jewish Congress and the American Jewish Community on different programs because the caucus works at a leadership level. But these different Jewish organizations have branches all over the world, and they can work with different Christian organizations to try to work in their communities to further more cooperation.
Of course.
And it's been very exciting. We've had many guests here. We had Senator Brown back here, and The Archbishop of Canterbury came to our meetings. Pat Robertson was at our day of prayer. And many different people from all over the world who are coming in support of this new cooperation.
And Glenn Plummer was here just this week representing the African American community and spoke so powerfully.
Well, yes, Pastor Plummer is just a brilliant speaker, and he was our keynote speaker this month at our meeting. Our new proposal and our new initiative that we're working on is to try to reach out to the African American community and let them know that we should really come together and work together, that we have the same past. We've both suffered under hundreds of years of slavery, that we worked together in the civil rights era in the 60s, and that really we're natural allies. And Pastor Plummer is taking it upon himself to promote these ideas and go back to America with a new vision. We'll be continuing to work with him and many other black pastors around the world.
Now, this is a very special week for us together. And we're very grateful for that, because this week we're launching together a program, a TV program called the Middle East Report. And actually it was your brainchild.
Yes, it's something we were developing for a long time, until we found Israel Vision as a suitable partner. We wouldn't be able to do it, but now, thank God, we've come together, and we're going to be able to report fair and balanced news from the Middle East, which is something you see very rarely. The first showing will be on the LaCie Broadcasting Network this Friday at I think 6:30 p.m. and Eastern Time, and on Middle East Television and Far East Television too. So it would be all over the Middle East and Asia and India and different areas. And it's really a news show. It's not doesn't have any connection to the Christian Allies Caucus, other than it's Christians and Jews working together again. But we have a 10-minute news segment and an 8-minute interview segment. We have Fact and Fantasy with Jay Rawlings. And
Primary Sources with Josh Reinstein, our interview segment.
We have an interview segment as well. And the Stern Facts with member of Knesset Yuri Stern, who gives his weekly opinion on what's the most important issue. And you and I both are very excited about this, because I don't think there's ever been anything like this on TV anywhere, at any time. So, well, we'll wait to hear from you, the viewer, of what you think, but this is pretty exciting.
Well, that's for sure. And
I want also, I must thank our Israel Vision team, the men behind the cameras, the men that are in the editing studios, David Rawlings, and all who have worked so hard to see this come to pass. It's just the beginning, but our prayer is that it would be a wonderful beginning and that it would continue.
They worked all day yesterday and all night last night to get the program together to send out back to America at 8 o'clock this morning. And then some of the men are here again today, so that's called commitment.
David Rawlings is quite a general, and his army is very impressive. We're very impressed with the results. I think you can see it in the quality of the show, and that's why I said that without Israel Vision and that team, this wouldn't be possible, and that's why we waited so long to put this show together, until we found the right mix of people.
Well, we do need to celebrate, and we need to say Baruch Hashem. We need to say praise the Lord, that it's coming to pass, and that we can give this wonderful window to the world from Jerusalem.
So we want to wish each one of you out there, our family of viewers, Shalom Bait. This is our prayer for you, that God would bless you and keep you. And we're going to say together, and maybe Josh will join us, from Jerusalem to you, a blessing. Shalom from Jerusalem. Shalom, this is Dr. Jay Rawlings reporting to you for Fact or Fantasy. In today's fantasy, I want to bring up the issue that Palestinians do not encourage children to engage in terror. This is a definite fantasy. And the fact is that most Palestinians who adopt terror in the hope of either ending the occupation or destroying Israel do so because they freely choose murder over any other option. Palestinian terrorists also, in some macabre way, choose to use children to do their dirty work. On March the 15th, 2004, for example, Israeli security forces caught an 11-year-old boy attempting to smuggle a bomb through a roadblock. PLO Tanzim activists in Nablus promised the boy money if he delivered a bag containing a bomb stuffed with bullets to a woman on the other side of the checkpoint. If the boy was stopped and searched, the terrorist who sent him planned to use a cell phone to immediately detonate the 22 pounds of explosives that he was carrying in order to murder the nearby Israeli soldiers as well as the boy himself. But alert Israeli soldiers foiled the plan, and the bomb apparently malfunctioned when the terrorist tried to remotely detonate it. Then, a week later, on March the 24th, 2004, a 14-year-old Palestinian child was found to be carrying explosives while attempting to pass through the Israeli army checkpoint at Hawra at the entrance of the town of Nablus. These were just a couple of examples of the cynical use of children by the Palestinians waging war in Israel. Young Palestinians are routinely indoctrinated and coerced into the cult of martyrdom.
Every Palestinian has been exposed to inhumane propaganda over the past few years, with the primary message being, kill Jews wherever you can. This message is not limited to the realm of the extremists, but rather is open policy. All of this has been orchestrated quite methodically by the Palestinian Authority, who, with malice aforethought and directed from above, have transformed children into political pawns. We must wonder what kind of government calls upon its citizens to become uncompromising killers, while presenting itself to the world as a victim striving only towards peace. This untenable hypocrisy should not be tolerated by enlightened civilization. Yet, this is the reality happening here and now, right under the noses and cameras of the international media, who are trying so valiantly to avoid facing the undeniable and disturbing fact. Irrevocable seeds of hatred have been planted into an entire generation.
How sad. No matter your political leanings, using and abusing children to carry out or assist in armed attacks of any kind is an abomination. We call on the Palestinian leadership to publicly denounce and cease these practices. I hope you'll agree. This is Dr. Jay Rawlings reporting to you for Fact or Fantasy.
Shalom, and welcome to our home, located here in the hills of Benjamin on the outskirts of Jerusalem. Well, how are you? When I hear the word peace process, this is what I do. I can't stand it. I can't hear the words peace process because, of course, I live in the middle of the Middle East and I'm very aware of just what is going on all around me. I understand that suicide bombers have an agenda and they're working day and night to see it come to pass. And so it's very disheartening to hear the politicians going on and on about the peace process and the great movement of democracy. Now, I don't want to get into politics because I want to discuss very briefly peace on earth. Now, God has a peace plan, and His peace plan is, number one, that you would be at peace with yourself, and in order to do that, you have to make peace with Him. And then you can try to live at peace with as much as lies within you with your family members. And that's not always going to be greatly successful, but hey, you can work at it. But He has the ultimate peace plan that will blow your mind. What citizen of the world wouldn't want to be part of the millennial reign when there is no terror, there is no death, there is no war? Wow. When people even enjoy living with one another, allowing our differences, allowing our peculiarities, allowing our cultures. That sounds marvelous, doesn't it? Well, we can hasten the day, I believe. Now, we saw a little snippet on news the other night of a mother lioness in Africa who had lost her cubs. And because she needed to nurture, she went and found herself an abandoned baby ibex. And here she was licking the little thing from top to bottom, and here's the ibex suckling into her and taking his milk. I mean, it was like something, a vision. It was a vision of things to come. And that's where we're going. But how can you affect the things that are going to come upon the earth? How can you add to the vision? Well,
Every time you meet a neighbor, greet them. Make a little child smile. Go and visit someone in a nursing home. Invite the hungry into your home and feed them a meal. Pick up the garbage in the streets. Don't use plastic. There are so many ways we can create beauty all around us in our homes and in our gardens. Every time you make a bouquet, every time you speak a word of kindness, every time you consider another person, every time you write a letter sending good news, every time you say a prayer for the other side of the world or for the good of the land, you are working toward this great millennial reign that is going to come. Do you know it's better to light one candle than curse the darkness? And how many friends of mine have said recently, oh my goodness, the darkness is growing. It's beginning to envelop the earth. Oh no, not here. You light your candle. If you're the only candle in that dark room, you create quite a difference because you're bringing light. So we're not to despair. We're to live. We're to hunker down here and make a difference. Go for it. Now, if you would like to contact me and have questions, or just visit my beautiful website, I'll meet you there, hisstillsmallvoice.com.